right. Welcome to the Temple Mount Al-Aqsa room.
The beams you see in this room were dated to the First and Second Temple period, and they came from just half a mile away from here, from the Temple Mount. We believe the footage we're about to show you is so important that we've decided to release the video in its full, immersive, and mostly unedited form, because we have been granted a rare access to a museum built in 1938. A museum that is no longer operational or open to the public, and may possibly be destroyed soon unless action is taken. Please watch this video carefully, because the items that we will show you here might possibly be never seen again. Items such as the First and Second Temple period wooden beams, 2,000-year-old Roman artifacts, Crusader relic that was taken from the Holy Sepulcher church, just sitting here, no protection, and proof of an existence of an ancient 6,000-year-old civilization, but not the kind that we learned in school about. This civilization was highly advanced, a civilization that has suddenly vanished from the face of the earth. And at the very end, we expose a plan that intends to take all these artifacts away and convert this piece of history into a luxury hotel. To make it easier to navigate through the video, we've added chapter markers in the timeline in the description below. Thank you for watching.
Hey guys, we are by the old city of Jerusalem. Behind us are the walls, and right in front of us, a place that we've been trying to get to for years, a place that had been shut down for public access, a place that you couldn't normally film, but somehow, by God's grace, today we got an opportunity, a rare, almost I want to say exclusive access to go and film one of the rarest finds from the British Mandate time. The building and everything about it is going to be just absolutely mind-blowing. And today we're joined by also Jose, our camera crew, and Steven. And today with us, Dr. David Gurevich.
Hi!
He's going to take us through the Rockefeller Museum, a historic building that has, what does it have, Dr. Gurevich?
The most important archaeological discoveries found in the region before 1948, and then at the Jordanian side of the country until 1967. So we have here findings from Megiddo, findings from the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, the reliefs of the Holy Sepulcher, findings from Jericho, findings from the Temple Mount, and of course the museum itself, its building, is an incredible piece of art.
So the Temple Mount findings, this is actually why we wanted to come here for so many years. Because a few years ago, we've done an episode about the Temple Mount, which is right here, that they found there beams with decorations, and they did then the chronology, they dated them to the Second Temple period, and we understood that some of those findings and artifacts are in this museum. Is that true?
That is true, but I would like to surprise you, because some of these beams are even earlier.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, before we go in, sweetheart, can you read this? What does this say?
Yeah. It says حكومة فلسطين دائرة الآثار القديمة. This is the translation of it behind you, by the way.
The Government of Palestine Department of Antiquities.
Yep.
As a tour guide, I used to bring tourists here, and they were all amazed about this museum and about the space here. But unfortunately, 2 years already, it is closed. And it's not only that it's closed for tourists, it's also closed for scholars. It's really difficult, if you are a PhD student, to get access in order to study the materials. You need to submit special permit and so on. Now, there are several attempts to save the museum. Definitely, as far as I know, Israel Antiquities Authority would like to keep the museum for the legacy of archaeology. Also, Israel Museum, who is responsible for the curatorship of the museum. But unfortunately, we are lacking the funds. And somebody in the government has to allocate the funds. We're not speaking about such big sum. As far as I know, we're speaking about up to 10 millions a year, which is nothing.
Yeah.
All right.
Look at this entrance. This is amazing.
This is so cool.
It looks like an entrance to a castle, right?
Yeah.
Now have a look, something really amazing. Before you enter, first of all, where you are, right? You are overlooking Jerusalem.
Yep.
But you are not really above it. You are aside of it. And the idea of the architect was to create that space just near the old city where all the civilizations can share together their culture. So what do you see there? Right at the entrance, you see a relief where you see Asia on the right side, Africa on the left side, and a tree that symbolizes the Holy Land, the land of Israel.
Is that the olive
Palestine,
tree?
yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. We have original signs, right?
Yeah.
From the Mandate period.
Yeah.
And have a look that the signs are in different languages. Like there are 3 languages, clocks. In Hebrew, in archaic Hebrew, it says Malbushim. Nobody says it today in this way, right? It's very archaic. And over there you have in Arabic. שלום לך. אני תיאמתי כניסה עבור היוטיוברים שלנו שמצלמים פה.
תיאמת עם רשות העתיקות?
בוודאי, כן, כן.
Good morning. Thank you, sir.
It's so incredible because what you're doing here, you're not only touching archaeology of ancient times, but you're also touching the history of this country 100 years ago.
Yeah, I want you to go through the gate, please.
All right.
Tickets.
Tickets.
Hey guys, we've decided to do something exciting.
That's right. This October, we're coming to Washington, D.C., and we'll be hosting the biggest community gathering we've ever done at the Museum of the Bible.
We actually went there last month and it was incredible. We would say it's the next best thing to being in Israel. And you'll get to explore some of the most important biblical artifacts in the world, including the actual Dead Sea Scrolls brought all the way from Israel. And there's an entire floor filled with ancient artifacts on loan from the Israel Antiquities Authority. But more than that, you'll be able to walk through a reconstructed Nazareth and experience what life was like in the time of Jesus. And our favorite part, you will get to see and read some of the oldest Bibles and manuscripts in existence.
It's going to be a 3-day event, and it's made possible by our partner Inspire. They're the official tour company at the Museum of the Bible. They will split us up into smaller groups and provide guided tours for each group. And Sergio and I will rotate between the groups throughout the tour so we can all spend time together.
And speaking of spending time together, we'll be using the museum's state-of-the-art theater, where we will all gather together for a night of worship. And in addition, you'll also get to go on a monument tour with a few optional activities like the Library of Congress tour.
But remember, space is limited, so make sure you sign up soon before spots are filled up.
And one last thing. After the event, we invite you to join us on the streets of Washington, D.C. to hand out gospel tracts and share the good news together. But this is totally optional and only for those who wish to join.
To find out more information, go to our website, snrisrael.com, scroll down and tap register to see the full details. The link is in the description below.
We really hope you'll be able to join us this year.
We can't wait to see you there.
All right, and here we are in the vestibule. The museum itself, have a look. Here we have the model.
This is the compound we are in right now, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's actually very beautiful.
We are right now under the tower, right? Here, the idea is to make the different cultures live together. So have a look. Here, we'll have the reliefs of the Holy Sepulcher. So this one is dedicated to Christianity. Here we have the beams from Al-Aqsa, so that is dedicated to Islam. Here, in present time, we have findings from different synagogues, ancient synagogues, so Judaism. And this octagonal hosts findings from ancient Egypt. So 4 cultures, right? But actually we have 10 cultures, and very soon when we get to that incredible courtyard with the pool, we're going to speak about the different cultures, yeah. Now this is a real, I would say, secret place that many people do not aware of because this place looks like a real palace. I just want you to have a view from here to see what we are speaking about. Wow.
Whoa! I can't believe this is real. I feel like I'm in the movie set.
Now, what you see here is a salute to the Islamic culture. It tries to simulate the Islamic palace Alhambra in Spain. You have a pool with a lion and a gargoyle that gives the water, and at the end, right, you also have a small fountain, right now not functioning, in a room decorated with Armenian ceramic.
I can't believe this is built in 1930s. I feel like I'm transported into way older period than this.
Now, the purpose of this courtyard is not only to be beautiful, but also to host archaeological findings that are large, that cannot be hosted in the galleries, like what you see here around, and we are going to speak about a few of them in a second.
Okay.
Even before we speak about the findings, have a look on the reliefs, right? Each one represents a different civilization that ruled this country. Over there, you see? The Canaanites, right?
Yeah.
And you see Egyptians and the Phoenicians, right? And the Mesopotamian civilizations, Crusaders, Muslims, the Byzantine time, Roman Christians, right?
Canaanite? No.
Romans,
Romans?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, the Capitolian wolf.
Okay, what is this foot right here? That looks so interesting.
Part of an ancient sculpture.
Roman?
Probably, yeah.
So you said there used to be a catalog documenting each item here.
Yeah. So this one is from Ashkelon, right?
Oh, this?
From Ashkelon. Probably it was a part of a bigger sculpture, and we have a few kind of foots of that kind that found around the country. Usually when a sculpture falls down, right, the foot, because it kind of projects from the sculpture, breaks out. So you can imagine how big was the sculpture, right?
Wow. How old do you think this is?
It's a 2nd or 3rd century, yeah. Of
What?
Common Era, yeah.
This is nearly 2,000 years old. This is insane.
I wonder if it was somebody's particular foot, because like the toes,
Yeah.
you know how people have different toes?
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's like this is actual toe of someone, like somebody looked at somebody's feet and sculpted, because the sculpture probably was somebody, right?
I would bet that it probably was a sculpture of a god.
A god.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
probably. Yeah.
But because if you look at the toe, that kind of reminds me of mine. You see how this little pinky goes into this, and it always, the nail gets in here, and it kind of makes you like itch here? That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Does it remind you of that, guys?
No.
You don't have that problem?
No.
All right, guys, let's go to see something really amazing here. Have a look on these capitals. These are capitals, the so-called proteolic capitals from the First Temple period.
No!
Yeah.
This is First Temple period capitals.
Yeah, and they also, not only that they are from the First Temple period, but they are common on sites of royal presence, royal architecture. So these capitals were excavated in Samaria, and another one comes from Megiddo. Wow. What do you see here, guys? What is this? What does it symbol?
Wait, are these palm trees?
Yes, it's a palm tree. And there is a new research made by my colleague, Dr. Norma Franklin, and she proved that this palm tree shape is not an accident. It was the symbol of eternal dynasty. So somebody who got into a palace would see that kind of capital, say, hey, this dynasty is eternal as a palm tree.
How do they know that this is from First Temple period?
Oh, first of all, they were excavated. There were excavations in Samaria, run by Harvard, also British archaeologists together.
This is during the British Mandate then?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And so I understand that then they would know this when they're excavating, this would be found between the layers of the First Temple period and all the artifacts, so the pottery or everything that points to that time. And so when they excavate this, it all connects in that layer of structure.
So what I wanted to show you is this thing here. Do you know what is that?
Is that a mill?
No.
Olive press?
This is part of a water siphon. It brought water to Jerusalem. It was part of the so-called high-level aqueduct that started from Solomon Pools near Bethlehem and went into Jerusalem. Probably was established during the 1st century of Common Era, or maybe end of 1st century before Common Era, maybe Herod, maybe a bit later. Now, the idea is that here, so that's a system that survived in Turkey, very similar idea. So the idea is that, water cannot flow up.
Right.
But unfortunately, sometimes you need to cross valleys, right? So what you do when you need to cross valleys, or you build a bridge, or if the valley is too long, it's very difficult to build a bridge to preserve the same altitude. What you would do, you make a pressure pipe like this one, you see? In such way, when water fills it, the energy is preserved. And what you would see is that, or not to see, that's how it works. Water goes down inside the pipes, right? Because it's stone, it preserves the energy and it's not going to be broken by the pressure. And then when it gets to the bottom, it starts to climb up. We are speaking about the yellow one, the one that was shorter and higher. And my recent work actually proved where was its destination in the old city of today, which is probably the big reservoir near the upper city.
This is the first time I ever see this. I always thought the aqueducts were just, like flat and they always go down and it's exposed water, because the only ones I've seen, I had no idea they had actual pipe system, pressure pipes. That
Romans were wise.
2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Is it the same idea in Susita, because they have smaller pipes from the mountains around?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But as far as I know, in Susita, it's a bit later. So we're passing through one of the two galleries, right? So have a look on the way how it is built. It reminds us the Byzantine churches, right?
Okay.
Or cathedrals.
That's incredible.
The floor is made of cork, so when people walk, it would not be heard, and it would create this unique atmosphere. Also, the place supposed to be naturally illuminated, so the windows are on the top part. Here we have the remains from the most ancient periods, from the prehistory and until the beginning of history.
Are these real bones?
Yeah.
This is somebody.
From Jericho, yeah. All right, guys, please come with me. By the way, all around the museum, you can see here that the Hebrew part, right, has some kind of stains, right, or background color. That is because when the museum was controlled by the Jordanians, they covered the Hebrew script. Of course, after 1967, the stickers that were covering the script were removed.
Ladies are downstairs.
All right. Welcome to the Temple Mount
This is it.
Al-Aqsa room.
This is so surreal. We've done a video about this 2 years ago.
All
and
right.
I only had pictures from the British Mandate in black and white, and I can't believe we're looking at the real stuff. It's real. It's real. Everybody who said, hey, those are just pictures, here they are.
Yeah. And it's amazing that actually people can touch it. Please don't touch it, but theoretically, it's open, right? So the story is that in July 1927, there was an earthquake, a big earthquake that made a lot of buildings collapse. One of these buildings was the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the roof of it collapsed. Immediately there were restoration works done, and during these restoration works, some of the ancient materials that held the roof and held different structures were removed and replaced by modern and more stable ones. Now, I would say that the British Department of Antiquities used this opportunity also to preserve these materials. So what you see here are different wooden beams, decorations, different plaques from the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, the interesting side of it is that some of these wooden beams have writing in Greek.
Wait, that is Greek, isn't it?
That's Greek,
right here.
That is Greek.
And this is from Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Yeah.
So how is it that you have Greek script on a wooden beam in Al-Aqsa Mosque? How is it possible if it's a Muslim mosque, if it's built a long time ago? Why would there be Greek script? How do you explain that?
So that is, the writing mentions different patriarchs or bishops from the Christian era of Jerusalem, from the before Islamic period, from the Byzantine period. And the story is probably that these beams were in the field, perhaps destruction of a Byzantine church. And what the Muslim builders did, instead of carving new beams, they went to a site of a destroyed church and collected these beams. And of course, reused them for this new building that they built.
So basically what you just said means that when they were constructing the Al-Aqsa Mosque, they would have reused beams from a nearby structure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, obviously you can see the Greek script, you can read it. However, in modern times, scholars were not confined by only just reading the script. They took samples from the beams and sent it to the carbon-14 analysis. And here we have a real big story, because a few of these samples came with surprising result. And the result takes us back not to the Byzantine period, but there are several beams that are dated to the First Temple period. First Temple period, 8th century before Common Era. Unbelievable. Some of these trees are cedars, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are oak trees, and it also kind of resonates the biblical story about the Temple of Solomon, right? How he brought cedars from Lebanon, right, in order to build the temple. Now, I wish we would have that carbon-14 analysis correlate with the cedar beams, but unfortunately, as far as I know, the beams that were dated to the First Temple period actually were not cedar.
So when I was reading the reports, what did it say? Some of them were cedar of Lebanon. Or
Yeah. But these particulars that were dated to the First Temple period are not.
I see. Okay, I did not know that.
So in the biblical narrative, is it possible that the word for cedar that was used then, it's not the same because sometimes the Hebrew wording, we don't know everything.
Is it
Could it be
possible
like a
this
different
is-
type of cedar or a biblical cedar that today we don't have it anymore or something like that?
Everything is possible. Now, I think it was very surprising for the scholars to find out that these beams date not only to the Byzantine period, but there are a few of them that are very ancient. Now, what is their origin? It's open for speculations. Definitely, you can speak a lot about it. By the way, as far as I know, there are some of other beams that were removed more recently that are still located on the Temple Mount.
Do you know which ones exactly here are from a First Temple Mount period?
Unfortunately not. I tried to find out, but it's very difficult to understand it from the reports.
But some of them are.
Probably, yeah.
I do have a confession. I have this extreme urge to touch, but I know I can't. But it's like it's an itch. But we cannot touch. But what are these? What are these? These are standing like columns. What would these be?
So decorations, different decorations. Some of them were used actually as doors. Some of them just decorations, plaques that decorated the hall.
And so these also are pretty ancient then?
Yeah. So you can actually see that what you have here is this non-figurative art, right? Which is very, very, very important in Islamic tradition, because you cannot represent people, you cannot represent Allah, right? Now, the story is that this art originates, part of it, from decoration of churches and the different structures in the Byzantine period.
This is exactly in our video. We actually saw exactly identical drawings and structures in the decorations from the pictures of these beams that were very similar to the one church in Bethlehem and the way they had those decorations. And this is like a Byzantine church there.
What we assume that when the Muslims conquered Jerusalem, right, perhaps they wanted to use the local artists who were already excellent in making also non-figurative art, and they invited them to decorate the mosque.
It's interesting because in Islam, like alcohol is prohibited, right?
Yeah. And you see
but
grapes,
in
yeah.
Christianity
Yeah.
and in Judaism, I mean, the fruit of the vine is very important.
Particularly in Christianity.
Yeah,
Because it
we take
symbolizes
the
Jews,
communion,
yeah.
and for
Yeah.
the Jews, they do the Shabbat dinner until today, the same tradition. So for us, this is very meaningful.
It's hard to grasp in the mind. I've seen houses on the wooden beams 300 years old. You go to Europe, you see 500, 1,000 years old. It's hard to grasp the age of this wood. Like, I didn't know wood can survive that long even.
Yeah, and some of these wooden pieces are 1,600 years old. Some of them maybe 2,600 years old. All these wooden pieces, like any other important exhibits here, must be preserved and must be in special preservation conditions, like special climate, special temperature, less humidity, and unfortunately, we need funds for that. Unfortunately, right now that's the struggle.
Okay, so guys, what Dr. Gorevich said, just think about this. This invaluable collection would just seem just wood, but represents history that dates back to almost 3,000 years ago. And it's just standing here in an abandoned museum. It's mind-blowing. This needs to be preserved. And people need to come and be able to see this.
Babe, did you see? This is cool. I think those are cuts. Are those modern cuts, or were it to put here, or were they used as door posts?
Yeah, I guess it's some kind of a way how you connect different beams to each other, right?
Yeah, because some of them are smaller. You can see that they just decorated walls, and some of them had more other use. It's amazing. This is incredible.
You don't have an itch to touch it. You don't have an itch to touch it. Wow.
So in the summer, unfortunately, it's very warm here because when the British management authorities planned the museum, they didn't have the tools to handle the hot climate. So when you come here and you get to that room with the wooden beams and other important finds that need special climate conditions, you feel that it's only a matter of time until something would damage the findings.
Just think about this. These wooden beams possibly were there when people who read about in the Bible were alive and walked by. Like, they could have seen, touched the same things that we're looking at, and not touching, but looking at.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
And now we are entering into a Muslim palace in Jericho.
Okay.
In Jericho, there was a palace of Maya dynasty that was excavated, dates back to the 8th century. Now, that palace is incredible because contrary to what you see here, where you don't have even one piece of figurative art, that palace, which was private property of Khalif or a ruler, is all about figurative art. What's going on? And you'll see there even a few surprises you would not find in conservative Muslim families.
Oh.
These are the decorations from the Hisham Palace. The palace had a bathhouse and a divan, a place for guests. And all these, or most of these decorations come from these two structures. Have a look. You have birds, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
You have some kind of animals, lions.
Look at those birds. It's like pigeons or something.
Yeah, of course you have different engravings like stucco. And have a look here. What's going on here?
Oh, wow, that's...
Oh, it's sad.
That's not something you would expect to find
in a Muslim palace. I didn't
in a Muslim palace, yeah. So perhaps the rulers in their private space were less conservative. And even more interesting that you can see the Khalif himself standing on the lions. Wow. Showing his bravery.
Yeah, this is like somebody painted something. And I see, like, we spoke about no face decoration too, but I see like face decoration. And would this have been like on a dome on
Probably,
top?
yeah.
This is unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen this level of detail dating this far back. Wow, and you guys reconstructed the arch here as well.
And have a look on these ladies, have a look on these people. So folks, 1927, right? The same earthquake that damaged the Aqsa also damaged the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, the most important church in Jerusalem, the place where, according to the tradition since the Byzantine time, right, Jesus was crucified, the place that hosted his burial, where he resurrected. Now, the same church was rebuilt by the Crusaders. And when the Crusaders rebuilt it, it took them about 50 years to open it. When the church in 1927 was damaged, during the renovation works, the British Mandate authorities removed incredible reliefs from the doorways of the church, from the entrance. That's how it originally looked.
That's where you enter the Holy
Yeah,
Sepulcher.
when you enter, yeah, you see, there were reliefs from the Crusader
That's not there
period.
right now.
They're not there, they are here. Wow. They are here, and that is really important art.
Way.
Now, we are very lucky, I think, that the British authorities actually removed them in order to house them in the museum, because with the disagreements regarding the management of the church between the different denominations, I think their condition, if they would remain there, would be much worse. So 1927, British authorities made the preservation works and removed the reliefs. So have a look, you have two reliefs that are incredible, and they were made by the Crusaders in order to welcome pilgrims to the church. Now, two reliefs are completely different from one another. The first relief, the one that was above the door that you enter today, shows different events in the New Testament in the story of Jesus. It's like a comics, right? You have different events happening in the same picture.
And look at the detail of it.
Yeah. Now, could you recognize some of these events?
The scrolls, maybe?
No, the resurrection of Lazarus.
Oh, Lazarus.
You have a coffin, right? And a guy coming out of a coffin.
Okay.
Right? Over here, you have Martha and Maria.
Wiping the feet of Jesus with the hair.
Yeah. So they are asking him to come and save their brother.
Oh, and I see Jesus in every picture probably has the halo.
And you see here the triumphal entrance to Jerusalem. By the way, part of the relief does not exist. It was damaged. Palm Sunday, perhaps. And, of course, what you see here is...
Oh, that's the Lord's Supper, right?
Exactly.
How old is this?
This is from the 12th century.
This is 800 years old.
Yeah. And this is the most remarkable piece of art from the Crusader time. My question is, when you look on it, right, there is something does not really look, I would say, consistent in the story, right? Why? First of all, you have Lazarus resurrected, then only you have Martha and Maria speaking with Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the triumphal entrance, and then you have the Lord's Supper. So we have some problems with the story, right?
Right, yeah.
Now, the idea was to show to the pilgrims the way that they passed. When they approached Jerusalem from the east, first they would go to Lazarus' tomb, then on Mount of Olives they would speak about Martha and Maria, and then the entrance to Jerusalem and to the Lord's Supper. So this is the doorway that brought the pilgrims to that point that they reached the final destination of their journey. And perhaps it also resonates with the verse in the Gospel of John, I am the door. Whoever passes through me will be saved. Now, contrary to that, wow, what's going on here?
Whoa.
You have girlands, right, with different demons,
Well, that's weird. Is this a demon?
different some kind of creatures. You can see there are also
Wait, this is also from the same place?
it's from the same place. There is a centaur here, right?
Oh yeah, centaurs
A
with a
pagan
horse.
centaur.
Half a
Yeah,
horse.
yeah,
Wait,
yeah,
this
yeah.
was from the same church,
From
from
the
the
same
same
church, the second doorway, nearby, just nearby.
place? That makes no sense right now.
No sense. And this is symbolizing, if that is heaven, right? The other relief symbolizes hell, or not only hell, but
That's
also
goosebumps, actually.
It's like good versus evil.
exactly, and it comes from the tradition of the medieval books of Bestiarium, describing the different mythological creatures that are common in the East.
This is so crazy. But think about the idea. You got enter through the narrow door, and you got picture of heaven, abundance, order, things with Jesus in the church, and then you've got the almost like a mass of chaos. And what looks like
Yeah,
almost like
it's called chaos, yeah.
Does it also looks like a little snake going through around, or whatever, some kind of web
Yeah,
of something?
yeah.
Almost looks like I'm thinking of the Dante's picture of a presenter of hell, like something just insane, and that's wow.
Yeah, it's also kind of compared to the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, yeah. What's mind blowing to me is we're looking at one of the most incredible pieces of art
From the 12th century.
from the 12th century, and this is real. This is not. Is this the
This
original?
this is real. This is the heritage of this Western civilization.
It's not a replica. This is original. There's no glass. Where's the glass? So I don't touch it.
Yeah. They actually used to have glass 2 years ago, and then one day I come here, I had special permit to see, oh, there is no glass. So I checked with the IA, what's going on? They told me that it's in the present state, it's better to be conserved without the glass because the glass creates some kind of, microclimate inside.
No way. That's interesting. Okay, so there's a reason why there's no glass to preserve it even better.
But, people can touch it, and they should not.
They should not touch it.
Because when you touch
oil.
the stone, probably the oils ruin it, and over time you can diminish the details.
Mind blown.
Oh, this is the first Iron Age. The first Iron Age would be David.
David, is this from time of the Israel?
First temple,
kingdom?
yeah.
First temple
period.
Wow, what is this bathtub? Wait, it says Tel Abu Hawam pottery bath with 4 loop handles used probably as a coffin.
Guys, a few interesting findings, and definitely it's impossible to speak about everything. As you can see, there are numbers here. They used to have the catalog of items, and there are thousands of numbers that each catalog relates to a different number. You can see on top the photographs of different sites that are hosted here. Now, I would like maybe first of all to show your audiences these ceramic vessels that come from different Philistine sites. These are the Philistine vessels, Philistine ceramic, that they imported the motifs, right, from the Aegean world.
Like Kaftor and
exactly.
I think in the Bible it says.
Kaftor is Crete,
Yeah.
yeah.
So these are the biblical Philistines. Wow, look at that art. I mean, somebody did that.
It's amazing. What, 3,000 years ago?
Look, these have like birds. This one has an eye. It's incredible. Ancient tic-tac-toe.
What you see here is the famous hoard of ivory that was found in Tel Megiddo. Now, probably the last Canaanite king of Megiddo collected ivory pieces. And there were over 380 pieces found in Megiddo in his palace. For instance, this amazing ivory box. Maybe for jewelry, maybe for something more precious. See, with these beautiful lions, right? Have a look at all these different plaques. Probably they were used in order to make decoration for furniture. Now, if you remember, Prophet Amos in the Bible speaks against the wealthiness of the kingdom of Israel, and he compares them to the cows of the Bashan, which are very, very fat, lying on ivory beds. Now, ivory is very, very precious material in ancient time, and the fact that you have such kind of collection is incredible. Now, it was found in the Canaanite palace in Megiddo. Probably the guy simply collected these items.
Look at all the jewelry.
Wow, look at the jewelry. Hey, that's gold, right?
Yeah. This looks like my grandma's
Jewelry.
jewelry.
Well, that tells you sometimes not a lot changes. This looks like a golden leaf.
Golden. This is insane.
Needles? Look at the needles. That's incredible, actually.
You have different epigraphic materials from the first temple period.
Wow, script.
That's Hebrew.
Yeah, ancient Hebrew.
Ancient Hebrew, that's pictographic.
I've never seen ancient Hebrew in real life, like an actual original one. This is the first time
Have a
I've
look
seen
at this
that.
one, right? This is one of the Lachish letters.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, is this when they
That's what
use
we-
the
yeah.
pottery to write notes on them sometimes?
Ostrakhan.
Yes, exactly.
This is a real Ostrakhan. Whoa, is this a skeleton? Yeah. Oh, look at that. You know what this looks like? This looks like a surgeon.
Yeah, he had a serious headache.
Wow.
But does that mean that this person was killed by a blow to the skull? Because it looks
Maybe.
like it was surgically cut.
Maybe. Now, this is an incredible sculpture of Jesus holding a sheep,
lamb.
right? A lamb. So he's the good shepherd, right? And it was found in Gaza.
No way.
Yeah. Now, we have only a few sculptures of this kind found in the Holy Land. One in Gaza, another one found in Caesarea.
How do they know this is Jesus?
Well, that is a very, very, very typical Christian motif.
Okay. I can't believe it's just right here. And you can see even the patina on it.
Yeah.
What is this?
Too.
Time burial, yeah. But it's not the original one. That's how they show how it looked like.
That's how they found it.
Yeah. But
Canaanite. I feel like we could spend here maybe a few days.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
now here we have different findings from the Jewish culture. And you have different synagogues that were excavated all around the country, and you can see findings from them.
This Hebrew.
Yeah.
Shalom. Shalom.
No, Shalom al Israel. Very common thing in synagogues. This is from the 5th century. It was found. It was found in the Druze village of Osfia on Carmel, near Haifa.
Let's say it's the 5th century.
Yeah, 5th century.
This is 1,500 years old.
Yeah, 400 years old. Yeah.
And
1,400.
the crazy part is that we can still read that. I mean, that's the same script that we have today. 1,400 years old.
Yeah.
And we can just easily read that.
Yeah, by the way, in Jericho, there is a synagogue from the same period, from the 5th and 6th century, with a very similar script, where it says Shalom al Israel. Of course, today you need special permit in order to enter Jericho. It's not very safe, but I saw it.
That's so cool. Peace upon Israel. That's what it says. So that means even after 70 AD, there was Jewish presence.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. What is this menorah here? Do you know?
So we have different menorahs here, right? This one is from, as far as I remember, from Eshtamoa, from a synagogue south of Hebron, the area of Hebron Hills. And probably it was decorating the area of the ark. But unfortunately, what we have here is only this part.
And this one has a half of a menorah. Does this come
Unbroken,
from unbroken?
yeah.
Does it come from a different place?
No, probably from the same place. It doesn't say here, yeah. This is the sculpture of Ramses III. It was found in Beit Sha'an. Now, what is doing in Beit Sha'an? Beit Sha'an
On top, they have the...
They have a tell,
Yeah.
But Beit Sha'an is located on the very reason that Egyptians were in this country, the road. The road is passing through Beit Sha'an, the road that connects Egypt and Mesopotamia. So if you want to make sure that you collect taxes, You put your people, your soldiers on the road at Bechan. If you want to make sure that no army would invade you, you'd put some kind of, of fort post away from your country, from Egypt, on that road, and you control the road.
Wow.
You know what it reminds me of? Because it has this thing, Seat of Moses in Chorazin.
Yeah, those were probably his hands on his knees, right?
Oh, his hands were here?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Look at his sandal.
Hey, let's see if his toes are straight. You see the Egyptians had straight toes, the Romans had my toes. Maybe I have Roman heritage.
A really crazy thing in the design of this museum. They had to invent a Hebrew script. Eric Gill, the sculptor, was responsible also for the script. And what he did, so for instance, here, the entrance to the library, right? You can see this is the library. It says library, and in the archaic Hebrew it says Beit Asfarim. Nobody speaks this way today, but that's 100 years old, right? Today we'll say Sifriya. Now, in order to have the script adapted to this space, to this museum, they actually found an origin for the letters. And the origin was this inscription that was found. Yeah, it was found in Jerusalem, dates back to the Second Temple period, and it says here in Aramaic, it says somewhere here they relocated the bonds of King Uzziah and do not open it.
Uzziah, yeah, it says Velo lemiftach, and not for opening. King of Judah, was Uzziah.
Why not to open? Was he one of the kings that was diseased?
No, because simply you don't want to
Disturb
the
the
bonds.
dead.
Yeah.
So that means that the architects who built this building, when they used
The script, they adapted it from ancient Jewish inscription. Have a look. This is the alphabet as it was published. Not all letters are located on the inscription that I showed you. So the missing letters they adapted from ancient Jewish ossuaries.
Okay.
The ossuaries that hosted bones of the deceased people, and the names of these persons were written on the ossuaries. I used to work here on my PhD several times. It was a really special feeling. You enter here and you feel like the time stopped, like you're in a time machine and you're entering this British time kind of Oxford style library. Have a look, the setting is very low. And by the way, they also used to have the archive of the Israel Antiquity Authority attached to this library, and it was really incredible time to work here. Unfortunately, today the library is located to the modern building, but you can still see how it looked like. This is the original furniture from the, most of it from the British Mandate. It's the original furniture of the library. Some of the new periodicals are standing here. Try to imagine what was the feeling to sit down here and work.
So when you were here, this was all full of books.
Yeah, it was full of books, of course.
The echo just disappeared.
Yeah, the
all of a
echo.
sudden.
I was
That's
just going to
amazing.
say there's no echo, probably because of these floors, right? The cork floors and the wood, the furniture.
This is cork floors?
Yeah. So that's the idea of the architect to make it, kind of, less noisy. So they would put cork floors, and also they used to have this catalog, right? Remember before we had the computers, there was that manual catalog with cards, right? That you would take them out and you could search. So yeah.
Wow.
And unfortunately, it stands abandoned. Such a gem, really, such a gem.
Look at these ceilings. So you said this was one of the most complete
Libraries of the archaeology of the Holy Land during the British Mandate.
Wow.
And you can see how the time stopped.
So all the archives that we look at online now, of the pictures that are in black and white and everything were here
Yes.
of the
Yeah,
Israeli
I personally
antiquity
looked at these
authorities.
archives. Today, the archives of the British Mandate Department of Antiquities are all scanned and accessible on the internet.
Yeah, that's how we found out about the beans.
Yeah.
We went through the archives.
Amazing.
If you want to see the British style lecturing hall, like imagine that you are in Oxford or Cambridge and you came to hear a lecture of a professor. Ta-da!
Wow.
Of course, the plastic chairs are not from the same time.
This is amazing. Also, no echo again.
Yeah.
Some of the classes in the University of Haifa are
Yeah.
similar. Well, the
Not so
Bama looks
beautiful,
different
yeah.
now. Yeah.
You studied in
Modern.
University of Haifa?
Yeah.
Right. I was there for 9 years.
Really?
Yeah, I did all my undergraduate and graduate studies there.
Okay. Yeah. I did English language and literature.
All right. I think one of the most incredible findings is this thing. Somewhere in the beginning of 20th century, a few monks who were very passionate about archaeology went to search for Sodom and Gomorrah. And they found a town. You can see it over there, right? The pictures over there. They found a town. What they did not realize from the first place that the town is not Sodom and Gomorrah, but a town of a culture that we haven't known anything about it, that dates back to 5,000 before Common Era.
Wow.
This is the period that we call Chalcolithic period, the time is that people understood how to use stone vessels in order to produce copper. So we have the first use of copper. And apparently this was a very, very, very rich period in art. So on that city, there were also paintings on the walls in that city. And the famous painting is this one. Guys, this is 7,000 years old, right?
What?
And you see here some kind of a star that perhaps was connected to a cult, to maybe procession. We don't know, simply because these people did not write. The writing literacy was still not invented. So this is very, very, very enigmatic finding. We don't know what the story of these guys, but we do find remains of their culture all around the region. So for instance, have a look, the same people used to bury in orangeries. Orangeries that look like a house. And if you go to Israel museums, they have an amazing collection of these orangeries. Some of them also have faces and very long nose. Why nose? Because the nose was probably a symbol of a human spirit. Now, when I say probably, again, they didn't write, so I can say everything. There are a lot of theories. Now, if you go to Israel Museum, you'll be able to see an incredible finding, and that finding is a hoard from the same period, over 430 copper items that were found concealed in a cave near En Gedi, near the Dead Sea.
Wow.
Called Nahal Mishmar hoard. And the hoard is a story by itself. There are different items of different animals, different skipeters. We don't know how to explain it. About 430 items, copper items. By the way, the alloy includes arsenic. There is no arsenic in the region. They had to import it from somewhere. 7,000 years ago, they knew how to make the alloy, how to cast these items, and somebody put them together into a basket and concealed them in a cave.
Could the dating be wrong 7,000 years ago? I mean, how's they come to that
So
time?
the story is that when they excavated, it was part of a big project to survey all caves near the Dead Sea because they were hoping to find more of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And first, when it was found, everybody was sure that we are looking on the treasures of the Temple of Jerusalem. So the items were folded into a straw, a kind of rag. And straw is organic material, so they sent it to carbon-14 analysis and boom! 7,000 years old.
Could the carbon analysis be wrong?
Not so much. So it can be wrong in terms of, maybe 50 years, 100 years, but not thousands of years.
What about the conclusion of it? So the carbon, let's say, is correct, but the conclusion that it originates?
If you're trying to make it dating to the first or second temple, it can't be. I'm
Correct.
sorry.
Could it be 4,000, 5,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
5,000 before Common Era, yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
So if the rug that it was wrapped in was dated to that time, could the rug itself just be older and used, but the actual relics
Theoretically, yes.
are
Theoretically, yes. But
newer?
I would say it's very unlikely that it would take the rug of 3,000 years before and put their items in that old rug, right? Also, there were findings in En-Gedi, about 5 kilometers from there, from the side of the cave, where they found a temple that belongs to the same culture.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the unresolved story about this culture is that they suddenly disappeared. They left their houses all around the country and vanished. What happened to them? We don't know till today. Probably, maybe climate change.
The flood?
Maybe something. Maybe, no. It happened all around the country. They disappeared.
So would this be related also? There was a culture in the Golan Heights.
Yeah. The
That'd
same
be the
culture.
same?
Yeah.
With
with the noses,
circles,
yeah. With the noses and the
Because
and
it's
the
giant. When we go to Golan Heights, our favorite places, there's just so much. There's almost like a civilization lived there.
Yeah.
What do we know about them?
They didn't write.
Could they be like the Anakim and Zimzumim and Inim of the Bible?
In the Bible writes that there was somebody living there before they came. I don't know.
It's possible that people who were in the field, had these ancient remains and said, hey, okay, what's the story about them? Let's try to explore it. Okay, maybe that's how that myth about Anakim was born. But again, we don't know what these people are, what ethnicity they are, what language did they speak, simply because it's prehistory. We still don't have written history at that time.
So interesting.
Super interesting. And the fact that I only thought it was Golan Heights, but it's all over the
All
land,
over,
and suddenly they disappear, and they didn't write.
But they drew.
But they drew.
Yeah.
There was a culture all around this land that didn't write, but they drew.
And built.
And they built, and there were a lot of them, and all of a sudden, all around this land, they disappear. And this is prehistoric, you said. This is before writing began. My mind immediately went to, we write because we have language. But what happened before Babylon? There was no language.
The flood.
And you didn't need to write. I would assume if everybody speaks the same thing, what's the purpose of writing? I suppose writing is development of a language. So if everybody spoke the same thing, they maybe drew but they didn't write, and then they disappeared. The flood.
Yeah.
Wow. To me, that was like it just clicked, because in Golan Heights, I always thought that was a civilization that lived before the flood, because they got wiped out. And then even the structure on the bottom of the Sea of Galilee, suddenly they're all gone.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was also here. And they just found a drawing from that time, but no writings. And even the horde, they had metal. So they were smart. They knew how to cast metal. They knew how to build things. They knew
He
how to
said they knew
construct.
how to do copper from the stone, how to do that.
Yeah.
So that is pretty incredible.
I mean, that was an advanced civilization. It wasn't like some caveman. Did you see the detail of that hoard of materials?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That is amazing to me.
So,
So understand that this is not open to the public. People
No.
can't just come and visit this museum right now.
That's correct, yeah. It
Okay.
used to be open to the public, let's say 3 years ago. The moment that the offices of Israel Antiquity Authority moved to their new building in different part of Jerusalem, this place stands abandoned and closed. Israel Antiquity Authority is keeping the building maintaining it meanwhile, but they do not have funds allocation in order to run it.
And then what's going to happen to this place?
So worst case scenario is that we'll come here in a year, and what you'll see is that all the archaeological exhibits were taken out, and the building is being reconverted into a hotel.
Wow.
So try to think that all these galleries we walked in would be some kind, converted into bedrooms.
What does the academic world think about this?
That it's disaster. First of all, of course, as an Archaeological Council of Israel, we are completely against it. We are hoping that people who are in charge will be able to find the funds in order to keep this legacy, because very much as the British mandate, and after the British mandate the Jordanians, we as the State of Israel were given the sacred trust to keep the legacy of the human civilization in our region, and it must be preserved. There was also a protest of the Association of Architects, because this building, as a building itself, is a landmark in world architecture, and this is one of these sites that after they are converted to a different function, people start to think about it. Oh, what we have done, why we allow it to happen. So right now this is the time to fight against it and to save this building.
So what can our viewers do? Let's say somebody's watching this and saying they want to come and tour this place. What can they do to help bring this back to operation as a museum and accessible to the public?
So I think they should write to the government of Israel, to the Ministry of Finance, to the city of Jerusalem, to everyone who have the ability to keep this building, to keep this museum alive. And also, I think that's a good idea to share this video and spread the awareness.
So you guys heard Dr. Gurevich. We've just witnessed something that is so rare and no longer accessible to the public, thanks to his petition to be able to arrange this tour and to arrange the filming of it. We want to do something that we've never done before, and that is raise awareness. So you guys are watching this and you want to come here one day, maybe 5 years or 10 years from now when you arrive to Israel, and you want to walk through these doors and walk through these hallways that are historic on their own, and then see these artifacts here. Follow the advice of Dr. Gurevich, write a letter, write an email, go to the website, and you'll find the links below to petition with the City of Jerusalem, with the government of Israel, and with the Ministry of Finance to allow allocation of funds to be able to preserve this museum so you will be able to come here and visit it. And as I understood, it's not that much funds required to maintain it, open it into operation, is it?
Yeah, well, so I don't have the exact figures, but as far as I hear, we are speaking about not really a big sum, not something that a country cannot afford.
And I think what's been happening is that a lot of people heard about Rockefeller Museum. Everybody who's touring Jerusalem, I mean, the old city is right here, the walls are right here, they see this building, they heard about it, they said, okay, there's something cool here, but we've never been here. This is our first time visiting it. I know so many other people have never been here, and so it's kind of maybe been in the general public view a bit forgotten because it's closed, not accessible, and it's easy to put it under the rug on a table and kind of convert it to something else and maybe decommission it because maybe there's no public interest. But something tells me that after what we've seen here today, there will be public interest.
Yeah, and I would like to emphasize that if this building is going to be converted into a hotel, it will be expropriated from the public. And this is public property. It belongs to everyone. It belongs to the Israelis. It belongs to the people who are interested in human legacy in general. Everybody should have the ability to enjoy this place.
It seems to me like it's more than just knowledge for you. It's more than just this is a site or a study. It almost feels personal.
Indeed. So part of my research is the history of archaeology. I worked very much on the archaeology of Jerusalem, of how it developed in the 19th century, how these first archaeologists came here and started to work. And on my research, I worked in the archives here. So it's unbelievable that such a gem can be simply lost. It would be very, very sad.
Well, and Leslie, Dr. Gurevich, thank you so much for taking us on this incredible tour, once in a lifetime opportunity, and we hope this will reopen to the general public. thanks to the help of our viewers. If you are able to make this petition, please do, and we'll be the first one to even suggest that as well. So please check out the comments below and check out the description, and you'll find the links how you can do that. Once again, Dr. Gavich, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
the tour.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Rhoda.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Wow, that was absolutely unbelievable.
That surpassed every expectation I had. It really is so wonderful and unique, and I feel Dr. Gurevich's heart of being sad about shutting this place down.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very unique.
Very unique. Nothing like we've ever seen before. And the amount of artifacts there are just...
It's wonderful, and they were collected in a very unique time period.
And the location of it, I mean, we're looking right at it, and right behind us,
The
feet away,
Damascus, isn't this the Damascus Gate somewhere?
Feet away,
Yeah.
the old city walls of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And right there is the Garden of Gethsemane, Mount of Olives, and the museum is right here.
Yeah.
Just, this gotta stay open. You guys gotta come here and be able to walk through this and see this with your own eyes. See those wooden beams with your own eyes.
That was amazing.
Amazing the connection. Imagine you going to the Temple Mount, seeing the Temple Mount, and coming here, walking through that room, and seeing with your own eyes those wooden beams that stood the test of time for almost 3,000 years.
And the prehistoric star with those vessels.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't just cave people that didn't know how to do anything,
Yeah.
but actually seemed to be civilized.
Yeah, advanced civilization.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we're mind blown, really.
So guys, thank you so much for watching this, and we hope you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed being here. So until next time, God bless you, and like always,
The best is yet to come.
amen.